All right. Well, we're sitting down today with a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time. His name is Justin Leavitt, aka JustinSayne Native. Man, how are you doing?
Jordan, doing great, man. Doing great. Good to be here with you today for sure.
Oh man. So before we kick off the show, before we get into the interview, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about you've been on tour for how long did you say you were on tour for?
This time I was actually out on the road for about 16, 17 days. 10 of that was basically just driving to get to the location. I live on the West Coast and the tour was on the East Coast. And so I decided to drive for numerous reasons. I kind of prefer driving and seeing the country.
Right.
So I drove, and it was a 5 day straight trip driving there, and then 5 days on a tour bus. Doing the shows, I did 4 dates in Atlantic City, and then a date in Maryland. And what we were doing is we're shooting a reality TV show. Basically, it's based on it's called Rise Up TV. It's on Roku,
Okay.
and it's what they do is they get five uh starving artists, basically bands trying to make it, and they from all over the world, and they throw them on a tour bus together and send them out on a tour, and they film every aspect of it. So it's kind of like a behind the scenes type thing. On the bus, the drama, the love, the laughs, all that kind of good stuff. So I think we got some good footage. It should be airing in about 6 months on the Roku channel. As I said, it's called Rise Up TV, and I went out there and did what I do, which is my form of music is I call rap and roll.
Rap and roll.
As
I
you
love
know,
it.
I'm an old school metalhead, but rap kind of opened the door for me about 10 years ago, and so I kind of mixed the two. I mixed the rap with the metal, and then brought in my native roots and Native American stories and kind of stories from my life and kind of some rattles and drums from our heritage, and kind of mixed all those three things together, man, and call it rap and roll. And I've been rolling with it for about 10 years now. Just put out my third full album with many singles in between, and so yeah, hopefully this reality TV show I just went and shot will get that message out, because it's all about spread the message, man. That's what we try to do, and message of coming together and respect and honor for our elders and children and the Mother Earth and things like that. So that's what it's all about. And every platform that I get to be able to do that is always an honor and a pleasure.
Man, you sound busy.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's why I know everybody in my hometown just thinks that I'm such a soch, because I totally never leave my house when I'm at home, because I'm on the road so much and I'm touring and I'm flying to these places, and I'm always going and doing shows. So I'm like, that's my time to be out and about and visit and do things, because when I'm at home, then I'm at home. I don't want to go nowhere. I'll maybe go to town once a week, if that.
No, I get that. It's well, I want to segue into that real quick because I think that as performers, like we are, we're constantly like you said. A lot of people think that that's what we're into. We just social, social, social. But it's something that I've learned is that it's not. It's not a bad thing to, like you said, once you get home, that's your time to break down, to just kind of recluse back in a little bit.
Yeah, and I love both. I love being out on the road. I love being out with the people when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But when I'm home, I love my family time. That's what I do. I just want to watch my shows and be with my family and be in my bed and in my house with my TV, and it's a trip too, because I don't 99% of everything I do, especially when it comes to the music thing, is done in clubs and bars,
Yeah.
and I don't drink or anything. So it's not my scene. It's not like something, I do like to go out every once in a while and support other bands and stuff like that, just to, kind of be seen, maybe book some shows. But it's, hanging out at bars really isn't my scene.
Yeah.
So when I'm out on tour, I get my fill of it. I get my fill of hanging out at bars and hanging out with drinkers and stuff like that, and singing my songs that are anti-alcohol, which is hilarious. Uh, yeah, I got my anti-alcohol songs in the bar, and they all love it. So
Take a shot to the anti-alcohol sound.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it gets the message out there. And one thing I've always said is that there's if there's just that one person, if just that one person at every show, if I can just get one, just one man that comes up and says, "Hey, I get what you're doing. I hear your heart. I hear your words, man. And that, that really touched me in some way, and just so long there's just that one, that's all that's ever really mattered to me, man. Is you just trying to touch one soul at a time if you can.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hats off to you, man, for that.
McGrich, thank you.
So, with all that being said, outside of your busy schedule, you've actually had a little bit of touch of paranormal experiences. You've actually been on some big platform TV shows and stuff like that. You want to kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I kind of touched on it a little bit when I said rap opened the door for me.
Mm,
What I meant for that was about 11 years ago, I started really getting into this music label called Strange Music.
okay.
It's the number one independent hip hop label in the world. It's partly owned by Tech Nine.
Oh, nice.
There's been some big acts on there, and one of the acts that's signed to their label, his name is Prozac, which
Mm,
just happens to be Steve Shippey, which some people out there now might know from the Travel Channel. He's got a TV show that was called Haunting in the Heartland. He's also done a series of, he's working on 11 full length movies, paranormal documentaries under the Haunted Saginaw banner. And anyway, I met him while going out on these tours, and just, I'd go to every show, I'd go backstage, I'd meet the artists, and I ended up meeting this gentleman named Prozac. And, we really started talking and hit it off. And he said, and I was pretty new to quitting drinking at that time. I was, only about 4 or 5 years into the Red Road. And, we were talking about, I was really wanting to, really ground myself out, get into some kind of business, really kind of start my own business, start doing my own thing. And so we kind of started talking about, business opportunities. He says, well, I got some things cooking up. Hit me up if you ever want to, kind of partner up on something, and we'll talk. And so I went back home and just worked real hard for a couple years and saved up all the money I could. And I called him up and said, hey man, I got a little bit of money saved up. I'd like to invest in something, what do you got going on? And he goes, well, I got my new album coming out, but I also got this other thing I've been doing. And he says, last year I released a movie called Haunting on Hamilton Street, and this takes place in Saginaw, Michigan.
hmm.
And he says, and it was great. It was a full weekend of sellout crowds at the Temple Theater, 2,000 people a night. We put it out on DVD. It's doing great. And it's not like music. He says this is something that appeals to everybody, young, old, to all demographics of people. So it's not like, music where it's just kind of targeting a horrorcore crowd or a metal crowd or something like that. He goes, this is going to really get out there.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that sounds incredible. I really not too much into the paranormal thing. Never really watched it much. I've had some serious paranormal experiences of my own leading up to that. But it wasn't really my thing, but I said, yeah, that sounds great. So I kind of invested into it just from a investment business standpoint at the time.
Mm,
Now he had said about a week or two into it, he calls me up and he says, hey, Justin, man, filming is going on. We'd like to bring you out here. We'd like to bring you out, check out some of the filming and be part of this. And I said, well, Prozac, I don't know if you really know what I do in my normal time, but people actually bring me tobacco to go to their homes and make scary stuff go away. So I'm not sure if you're going to really want me there for filming, because I don't know if there'll be so much activity with the medicine I bring, if you will, not with any kind of ego, but when what led up to my sobriety was actually a pretty heavy vision, kind of like everybody reads about in books and stuff like that with Native Americans, Vision Quest and everything. And it was kind of like that for me. I went through a real heavy vision where Geechee Manitou, the creator, spoke to me, and spirits came and spoke to me and kind of really set me straight, man. And after that major experience of this spiritual experience and this rebirth and this awakening, from what the spirits had told me, I woke up that next day and literally never drank again. and just went on, what our people, of course, call the Red Road, a path of respect and honor and sobriety. I started studying deeply into my roots and my heritage and my tribe. Started learning my language. I started going to ceremony. I started training to be a fire tender at Sweat Lodge and at Sundance and things like that. I started apprenticing in some pretty big things with some elders, ceremonial wise. Which then moved on to me doing my own community sweat lodge here in the neighborhood. So kind of always during that time, I was just literally living in the spirit world. Everything was the spirit world to me. Every animal was telling me something. Every rock was telling me something. Every tree, the wind was talking to me. Like, it was really one of those times where I was really so deep into the spiritual world that it was kind of just like first nature. It wasn't having to go into the spirit world, like I was living in it all the time.
Right. It was something.
So
It sounded like something that was really opened up for you. That doorway has that. Like you said, that doorway was just blasted open for you.
it really did. It really did. It was like, a satellite dish opened up, man, to let what needed to come in. And then after that, I kind of, I had to learn how to, protect myself. Because when you start opening up those doorways, is something that I always talk about in this paranormal things when you're doing these ceremonies, that things have to be done in a certain order and in a certain way. And as you know, and as I know, in our culture, all the dominoes got to be in order for ceremony to be a certain way. You can't do one thing before the other. You can't sing
Right.
a closing song at the beginning of a ceremony, or your ceremony's not going to work.
Yeah.
So the dominoes got to be in a row. So, one of the things I had to learn early was on how to protect myself from that doorway that I opened up, and also protect the ancestors and spirits that I invite into my ceremonies, to make sure they're protected. Because when you start opening those doorways, those negative things can come right in there too, if you're not protecting yourself with cedar and smudging things off really good and things of that nature. Um, so anyway, I said, "Hey, Prozac, I don't know if you're going to want me there." And he goes, "Oh, really?" He goes, "I didn't know that." He goes, "Well, why don't we go ahead and bring you in as a cleanser for the film?" And I was like, "Oh, that might actually work." He goes, "Yeah, you can go to some of these haunted places, and when we're done doing our investigation, you'll come in and do some ceremony and kind of cleanse the place out." And I was like, "Wow, that actually might work." And, of course, when I got there, I had to explain to him. Well, before I got there, I kind of explained to him about how some things are taboo. Of course, as you know, there's not a lot of things that, there are a lot of things that obviously we don't want on camera. That kind of takes away from the ceremony, certain songs, certain things you don't want
Yeah.
on camera and things like that. So I kind of explained that. So what I would allow him to film, we did. And it was really a trip, man, because when I got there, it was in Saginaw, Michigan. Now, I'm Ojibwe, Chippewa, from the White Earth Band in Minnesota. And this was being filmed on the Chippewa area of Saginaw, Michigan. That's Chippewa territory. So when I got off the plane, literally everything was written in my language. Every street, every town. It was the
Wow.
Ojibwe Cab Company, Ojibwe this, everything. And I got off the plane and I knew instantly. I said, "Creator, I'm not here for a movie at all. I'm here to do my
Right.
other work. Like, I'm here for ceremony, for like real ceremony." And sure enough, the first place he takes me was right downtown Saginaw. Now, for those of the people out there that don't know, Saginaw, Michigan is built on the high ground of the area. It's the non-floodplain. And it being a non-floodplain, the reason that they built it there was, of course, so that it wouldn't get flooded out and stuff, but also what it used to be was Chippewa burial grounds, because it was the high ground that wouldn't flood out.
Right.
So, of course, that's where we'd want our ancestors buried. So what Saginaw, Michigan did when the settlers arrived was end up digging up all of the Chippewa ancestors there, relocating them or putting them in museums or whatever they did, and building an entire town on top of a burial grounds. So
This is one of those, like you said, it's a very taboo thing, but it's something that Hollywood is, like the poltergeist thing of being like, oh, it's on ancient Indian burial grounds. This is literally that. This is the physical embodiment of that. Yeah.
yeah, and it sounds so Hollywood, like your town's built on an Indian burial ground. No wonder it's haunted type thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds so commercial, but it was so true. I was like, wow, I'm literally in a town, and it was no wonder all the activity there. I mean, just complete negative energy, just cops and shootings and drug addiction and just every other building that we went to was completely having paranormal activity, and things of that nature. And so the very first place he took me was literally right in the middle of town. There's this little it's like a gravestone, but what it was a marker, and it's literally right on a corner that people were walking on top of it. They could walk right on, right over it and everything. And when you read it, it said here, Chippewa remains were found and dug up, and right here in this spot. And it's like literally no protection of it. Like I said, people can just stand on it. Everything else. So the very first thing I did, and we're talking Saginaw in October, Michigan. So it was cold.
Oh, I was gonna say
And,
cold.
and there was snow on the ground. And the first thing I did is I just kicked off my shoes, for respect reasons. And what medicine I was able to bring on the plane, my sage, cedar, sweetgrass, things like that. I have my drums, some feathers. I just walked right over to this monument there, this little stone tablet, and started doing ceremony. I started burning my sage. I started singing songs. I started praying, and he would just kind of start filming, and then the whole movie kind of turned into like this big. Not just a paranormal documentary. It actually turned into a thing about the native history of the area, and opened up a whole lot of things to the Saginaw people that they didn't know that they were living on top of a burial ground, and that they didn't know that these are somebody's ancestors out here that they're just standing on and stepping on.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to open up that complete door for that, and then that kind of turned into I did the ceremony there. We then were driving later that night. We were driving, and they had done the place we were doing the investigation was a place called the Stable, and this was an old funeral home that they had turned into a winter ski shop. Like they sold skis there and jackets and snowboards and stuff like that. So it was a funeral home now turned ski shop where just stuff was flying all over the place. Stuff's got doors slamming, people getting scratched, attacked. It was just a lot of activity going on there. Well, before I got there, they were doing some filming with one of the owners of the stable's wives. Now, she was doing the taunting, something that I never will suggest to anybody and actually feel it's quite disrespectful is when you see those ghost hunters that are
Yeah.
show yourself, you effing this, and you don't effing scare me, and you're a coward if you can't come out. So you don't go in and just yelling at spirits and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
it's not going to work out good for you. So this is what she was doing. She was taunting the spirits and saying you're fake and you're and this is all blah. Anyway, something ended up following her home.
Yeah.
So while we were in it, and really was messing with her hard. She was really freaking out. She called while we were in the van and just freaking out. So you guys got to do something. Something he came home with me, and it's terrorizing me and this and so he says, "Okay, we'll be right over." We drove right over there. And we walked up the stairs. She was in some apartment buildings. And the second we opened the door, it hit me. It hit me hard. It was almost like this spirit knew I was coming. And it was like, oh, so this dude thinks he's going to come with his little rattles and feathers and mess with me.
Right.
And the second the door opened, it hit me like a ton of bricks right in the chest. Boom. And I was like, oh, man. I go, yeah, there's something really heavy going on here. We got to, and I started trying to give instructions. And I'm trying to tell Prozac and the other guy behind the camera. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need a bowl of water. I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need, has anybody got a lighter type thing? I'm trying to get my little stuff together there to start doing my ceremony. But it was scrambling my words in my mouth. It was the weirdest thing. Like it was literally the spirit was scrambling the connection from my brain to my mouth to where when I was just trying to say things as simple as get me a bowl of water, I couldn't say it. Like my mouth would not mouth the words. I was literally going, could you please, could you, I just need, and I'm trying to point at the sink, and a bowl, and it's really messing with me. They're like, dude, can you talk? And I'm like, this thing's really attacking me hard. It's trying to scramble my brain. It's trying to make it so I can't communicate. And so they were able to we got the water and I started and I looked over and her bedroom door was wide open. And I looked over with my bowl water right after I got it. And I was going to start at one side of the house, on the east end of the house, and go around in my circle and start doing ceremony. And that door just, boom, blam, just slammed shut. And I was like, okay, yes, this is definitely, this is it's the, and but what I got from it was that it wasn't really a malicious spirit. It seemed like more of a younger spirit that was really kind of just happy to be free and really being just not malicious and not in a mean way, but just really like a bratty kid. Like, I'm free and I'm gonna mess with this lady and I'm gonna scare the crap out of you and I'm gonna, and just really kind of having fun with being out and about now in some new home and stuff like that.
Well,
So I didn't really.
I was gonna say that with her taunting it and the way, poking and prodding at it, it being that sort of a young essence, or you felt it that way. I mean, that's a very young person thing to do, is to be like, oh, you think I'm not real? Well, watch
Yes.
this. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. And that's exactly what it was. And I, because I didn't feel really any inherent danger, just like like a practical Joker ghost, kind of. Like, thinking that this is going to be really funny to watch me scare the crap out of these people. Kind of like the bad uncles in Casper. They kind of really never really hurt anybody, but they really just enjoyed scaring the crap out of people all the time. Kind of like the couple in Beetlejuice. They
Oh
just wanted,
yeah.
they just didn't want to be messed with. But he wanted to do the messing around. So I went around, did ceremony, and I had to bust out the big guns. I got some certain medicines, certain rattles, and things like that I'll only bring out for some certain things. But I could tell that it was really trying to stop me. So I had to bring out big guns, and I went around and did my ceremony and chanted and sang and brought what spirit I could into me, and then from into me I purged into the bowl of water. And now as I was doing this, as I was taking this in, and I'd go, kind of like gag into the water and kind of like getting it out of me.
Hmm.
The water literally changed colors. It went almost black, from being crystal clear water right out of the tap. And that was just from me taking this into me and then me expelling it out of me into the water. And then what I ended up having to do, and they got this on film, most of this ceremony, is I ended up literally having to bring out. I've got these 4 bear claws, and I put them in between my knuckles, like so I kind of had this Wolverine type fist going on with these big bear claws,
Hmm.
and literally had to claw into it, kind of get a grip, like, and drag the spirit out of the front door, down the stairs, into the front yard, and kind of throw it up in the air, and then say my words, in Ojibwe, my little incantation or prayers to send it to a good place, because I'm not about hurting any spirits or anything like that. They're all displaced or lost or things like that, and so I'm more about helping spirits to get where they're supposed to be.
Right.
So that was kind of my purpose. And I cast it away and cast it to where it needed to be. And then we left. We wrapped up, and she said she felt better, and we went on to do some other filming. But the wonderful thing about that is, about 2 years later, she called. She was still a friend, and she contacted me and she called me her hero, and just how nothing ever bothered her again, and it was so wonderful, and it was such a weight lifted off, and I just can't even describe the pride and just the humbleness that I felt by being able to help somebody in that way. I mean, and it ain't me, obviously. I'm just kind of a conduit that the spirits that I can kind of connect with,
Hmm.
that work through me and kind of help me to connect with these spirits, because I certainly don't take credit myself for any of this. Everything is creator and spirit. I just kind of am a puppet. And so they helped me to do what I needed to do to help this lady. And then from there, I went in and did quite a big ceremony inside the stable. Wasn't quite as malicious or attacking or anything in there. They were there and it was going on, but it was a lot smoother. I just kind of ceremony and just kind of sent everything to where it needed to be. And now, at the end of the film, it even says that for a full year after my ceremony, there was absolutely no activity in the building whatsoever. What happened was, though, they tore the building down right behind it and demolished it. And as soon as they tore the building down behind it and demolished it, there was activity in the stable again. So all whatever entities and spirits must have been in that place must have moved back into the stable.
I
Um,
was gonna say that it's funny because every living being has some sort of similarity in that the way spirits dwell in certain areas. Like you said, when they demolish that building, it sounds like they, like it's like what insects do when you demolish their plate. They go to, the nearest one.
yeah, exactly. You go knock down a hornet's nest, they all don't just disappear. They move.
Yeah,
They're gonna
yeah.
move. They're gonna move next door. And that's what they did. Kind of, they kicked the hornet's nest, and sure enough, that it was haunted all over again. And so that was that was kind of one of my first experiences in the film genre of doing this. So, of course, obviously not my first one in the spiritual world, but as far as getting this out there to the people and in the paranormal documentary realm, that was some of my first major experiences with that, and it's stuck with me ever since. I've done quite a bit of house cleansings and ceremonies and things since then,
Hmm.
and hopefully not to let too much of the cat out of the bag, but I'm actually me and Steve Shippey are actually working on me trying to get back out there and maybe doing a little bit more ceremony and putting it on film, kind of a 10-year reunion type thing. Of coming back out there, because basically anything that has to do with a Native American subject, or as soon as he hears, oh well, this place is haunted, and then because of native this or native that, anytime something like that comes up, I'm usually the guy that Steve will hit up first. He's the guy that'll hit me up, and I'm kind of his go-to. Don't really want to say token
I
Indian,
was
but
gonna say you're his token
yeah,
Indian.
yeah, exactly. But it is done with much respect, and he just
Right.
knows that I take what I do very seriously in the spiritual world, and we, with honor and respect and love, and that's kind of the way he wants to go about it. And it was a really cool thing because it kind of changed the way that he did investigations from there on out. He all of a sudden now in all his investigations was using more things like sage and medicine, and actually communicating with spirits, and prayer, and the people coming together with intent, and asking the ghost to go where it needs to go, and things like that. So it really kind of changed the whole way that he approached these paranormal documentaries, which is great. And like I said, he's now done 11 full features and working on the next one coming up next month. And he's got a series on the Travel Channel. He's also done some stuff for Discovery Channel. He just did a thing about Ed Gein, which was amazing, and the real story of Scream. These are on the streaming networks, the Discovery streaming network, I believe.
I
So he's
fully
a
heartedly recommend you guys go check that out. If you don't have it, well worth the investment, especially for those that are really into the true crime paranormal stuff that clearly we do here. That's a place that you guys should really check out.
definitely, yeah. Look into it. He does it very well, very respectful. He's worked with some of the biggest names in the paranormal world, if you will, and they're done really well, man. So yeah, definitely suggest checking those out. So yeah, so that's kind of what I got going on in the film genre and stuff like that, and then I've got my personal life, bro, where my wife is a real connoisseur of the unknown, if you will.
I like that.
Cryptids and ghosts and things of that nature. And if anybody ever gets a chance to get out to Southern Oregon and go check out a place. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to look up the name of it here real quick while I'm on the phone with you, but I can do that. It's a haunted hotel here in Southern Oregon. It's actually the considered the most haunted place in all of Oregon. Um, and my wife likes to go there for her birthday.
Hmm.
So for the last 2 years, we've gone out there, and Uh, Let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, we've gone out there and stayed there, and every single time, man, just um, major activity. I mean, everything from when we first got there, there was banging on the door of the hotel, shadows walking up and down where you could see the light under the door.
Hmm.
But then where you would normally, like if a person walked by, it kind of blocks the light. You see that shadow go across under your door.
Right.
Nobody out there, though. Nobody out there continuing to go on, just up and down the hall. We were actually trying to film the second time we were there. And went in at the upstairs of this hotel. Now, this hotel is from the old Western days. It used to be a stagecoach stop, um, where the when the stagecoach would stop and they'd come in there, and there was a parlor and a smoking parlor. One was for men, one was for women, a piano, and they'd play the songs and stuff like that. And I was hearing music coming from the parlor, like old Western music, and there was no old Western music playing. Doors were slamming. Um, Let me see. There was we were outside on the grass, laying on the grass out in front, taking pictures. And in one of the pictures, there was literally a glowing footprint right next to my head, where it looked like something had walked right by me, and you could only see it in the picture.
Whoa.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was, and then there was also a lot of other crazy stuff going on up there, the Bigfoot sightings a lot up there and stuff like that. So we also went out and knocked on some trees, did some tree knocking and, maybe get some response, and actually got a response from out in the middle of the woods. I knocked on a tree, and sure enough, something out there knocked back. And, and of course, I believe it was Bugway Janini, wild man, Bigfoot. And so when we saw some other evidence of some Bigfoot out there too, some kind of tree fort bending type thing that they do going on out there. Like I said, a lot of shadows going on. Now, the most intense thing that happened though was, again, my wife is one of those people that I won't say is rude or mean to the ghost, but if there's not action going on right away, she's kind of wants to challenge things, if you will. There's no ghost here, and I don't see nothing. There's not going on. Kind of one of those type of things.
Right. One of those things that we
Well,
just talked about that you don't do.
ex- exactly. So what happened was, we took a nap during the middle of the day, and she experienced a very serious sleep paralysis. There was something holding her down while she was laying on her stomach. She literally felt a two handprints push down on her back and hold her down on the bed and not let her up. And she was in complete sleep paralysis. She was awake, but she couldn't scream. She couldn't move. She couldn't talk. All she could do was feel this thing pushing down on her inside the room in the bed. She was freaking out. And of course, I wake up from a nap and look at her, and she's just looking terrified. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened and stuff, And she told me about it, and I was like, see, that's what happens when
That's
you're there.
well.
They're not here. She goes, okay, I know they're here. I know they're here now and stuff.
Well, that's that's what I talk a lot about on the show is that we're told you're not supposed to talk about this stuff. We're not supposed to talk about these things that are out there, and especially you don't provoke them. You leave them be. I mean, how many times have our tribal elders told us, when you tell them like saw this or whatever, their response is always leave it alone. Don't pay attention to it. Just let it go.
That's
So,
exactly right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And especially don't provoke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there was balls rolling around the floor. There was a basketball upstairs that on a completely level floor I'd sit in one spot and it would just start rolling across the floor. And I'd set it over in another spot and it would just roll across the floor. Second time we went back there, it was completely gone. Now, this hotel was also on one of the ghost hunters, uh, uh, one of their investigations. Babe, what was the name of the hotel? The what? Wolf Creek Inn. The Wolf Creek Inn
Oh, the Wolf Creek Inn.
in Wolf Creek, Oregon. Take a look at it. It's been featured on numerous paranormal documentaries, things like that. And let me tell you, it is heavy. And we're also the type of people that ask when we book a room, like, what is the most haunted room you have? What is the what is the room that's had the most activity in it? And so of course we always get that room, and sure enough, we're shown a lot. We tried to go upstairs and in the same spot where the ball was, and there was some door slamming going on, and we're up there with the camera and we're sneaking around. It's really late at night, and we're kind of heading towards this dark doorway, hallway. And right as I get to the hallway, and I'm like, let's flip on this light. And when I reached out to go flip on the light, some growled at me, dude. Like literally growled at me. I freaked, man. We both went trucking out of the hotel,
Right.
down the stairs, out the front door. And Jessica's just like, I'm not going back in there. I'm not going back in this hotel. I never want to stay here again. What was I thinking? What was I doing? What did I do? I go, did you, we're both doing the whole, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I heard it. Oh man, that was it what I think it was. We did end up, of course, within 5 minutes going back up there and, flipping that light on, and there was no growl and nothing like that. And, it wasn't on the film. We were filming it and we've listened to it a couple times, and it was just the audio wasn't all that great. It just didn't catch it. But it was loud as day to us. And that's kind of something that she likes to do once a year. Go out there, go to certain places like that, and really get the full experience. Places where there's UFO sightings, stuff of that nature. We really like to hit those places and see if we can get some kind of communication going on. We're really into, you see there's these certain people, there's this group that goes out and they kind of basically call UFOs. It's the most amazing thing. Mm-hmm. They all go out in their lawn chairs in the middle of the desert and just kind of telepathically communicate out to the UFOs and say, we're your friends, please come visit us type thing. And, 9 times out of 10, the things come. So we enjoy things like that. We're actually at a pretty hot spot for things such as, Sasquatch and UFOs where I'm at too. And, one night, I guess it was about 2 years ago, maybe, we were just kicking back in the bedroom, looking out the window. I got this big window, and we were kind of looking out the window at the sky as we like to do every night, and kind of checking things out. And the next thing you know, we see all these. I'm talking about 100 of these dots all coming. Now, this was right around the time when that new Elon Musk satellite system, right, where they're all connected, was going on. So for a second, I was thinking, nah, that's that satellite chain.
Yeah,
that's what it's got to be. But then they started changing. It went from vertical to all of a sudden horizontal, and then back, and then they started circling, and then they were going up and down in like in crazy directions that no kind of plane could fly, and we were just freaking out because there was literally 100 of them, dude, and they were just going every direction and around in circles and just everywhere. And then they were just all fooled. They all just took off and they were gone, and have never since or before seen anything like it, man.
It's funny because I remember, and I didn't know anything about that they had launched that. And so when I had seen them, I was working in the oil field, and I had just gotten off that night, and I was looking in the sky, and I just happened to look up, and I seen him, and I remember freaking out. I called my partner at that time. I told her, I was like, "Hey, go outside and look." And it was really funny because it was really the first time that at that time that I had ever seen anything of that nature, and so it kind of bummed me out to find out that it was the Elon Musk those satellite chains. But
which is kind of cool looking too. You can totally tell. They all go right in a single line. They're all perfectly distanced apart. You can tell they're kind of all connected and just being like pulled through the sky almost. So, but it's kind of cool, still for what it is. But that's what I thought it was until they all just started going in every direction and separating and flying around in circles and jettisoning from one end to the other. And I was just like, holy mackerel. And that's something we never forget and talk about often, and keep our eyes to the sky because we're always hoping to see something like that again,
Absolutely.
Because especially those are for the Ojibwe people. That's kind of that's family. You know, we call ourselves Anishinaabe, and what that means is from whence man was placed on Earth,
Mm.
which basically, you know, our creation story, things like that. We basically came from the stars, straight from space, right to here. You know, we came on a spaceship and we were set here. You know, so that's kind of, so when I see things like that, it's like, oh, it's the relatives, it's our star brothers and sisters, you know,
I
and
love
so
that.
it kind of gives it that whole extra meaning, you know, to seeing stuff like that.
I love it. I love all of that. So we're getting close to the end of the. I know we're. I know you and I can probably go on for hours.
Yeah, totally, man. Especially about things like this. This is our forte, if you will.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the things that we do here on the show is I always tend, and you've kind of touched a little bit about that of your paranormal stories. But one thing that we talked about well before we had actually sat down to interview was I wanted to get your personal scariest story encounter, or however whatever it was that you seen, and do you have one specifically that you want to tell?
Yeah, I can touch on a little bit and share what I can.
All right.
Mainly because, of course, Spirit said, "Do not tell anybody about this." But
Oh, oh, okay.
but it's one of those things that you know, that I've always took to, and obviously, if spirits know me, they know I'm gonna anyway, so they already knew that I was gonna. They just kind of
You
got.
do you think that they look at you and be like, "Don't tell that," when he tells everyone?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm like, we know he's gonna tell everybody anyway, but you know, at least to kind of try to tell him to keep his mouth shut about stuff. You know, and I've learned, you know, or at least rationalized in my own mind, just to kind of cover up for me having a big mouth, is that you can't just tell anybody about these things. You know, you
Right.
can't just go out there spouting off that you're talking to spirits and this and that, or you get judged and people judge you, or people think you're insane, or people don't take you seriously,
Justin
or things like
Sane
that.
native.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not one of those things that you just want to go out spreading around all the time. So that's kind of the way I always took it. But this was a life-changing thing, and it was not so much scary, like like horror movie scary, as much as it was just the most intense, insane, on the edge of literal, what I've always thought was reality, and a separation of reality and the spirit world was so prevalent that it just had me in shock. And that was happened on November 8th, 2006, and that was the date that my sobriety came. That's the date that spirits came to speak for me to me, to try to straighten my ass out for the fourth and last time. You know, I I had thought that I had drank all my dreams and any form of a life away,
Hmm.
around 2007. And you know, my elders kept trying to drag me to powwows and things like that. And like, you know, come on, come to ceremony, come do this with us, you know, come try to find a better way. And, you know, and so this one time, and I will try to make this brief, because it's a heck of a story, but I'm gonna do the short version here. You know, I ended up at this time. I said, okay, you know, I will come to powwow. You know, I'll come out there, and I got to powwow. And what does Justin do? As soon as we get there, I say, I'm gonna go walk around and look around. Well, what I did was end up heading out of the powwow across the street to the stores to try to find beer.
Oh wow.
Okay, so I go, so I'm at the store, and the first store is like, you know, and this is a veterans powwow, so it's at the VA.
Hmm.
And so the first store I go to, no beer here. We don't sell beer. Walk 2 blocks, second store, no beer here. We don't sell beer. By about the fourth store, I'm like, what's going on, man? Doesn't anybody sell beer? And they're like, well, you see that big giant building? That's a VA hospital, and we don't sell beer within like a 2 mile radius of there,
Oh wow.
and or 5 mile radius. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So I was kind of forced to have to go back to the powwow. And of course, at this time, I'm a pretty serious alcoholic. So I'm shaking, I'm feeling sick. And I go back to the powwow, and they were doing a healing dance with the traditional dancers, and they circled all the chairs out there around around our flag, around the feather staff, you know, the medicine staff they put in the center of the arena,
Hmm.
and they put chairs all around there, and all the traditional dancers would come out and dance around you and dance you good healing prayers. And and I remember when I first got there looking out at these traditional dancers and at this time thinking I had drank because I only had two dreams my whole life, and that was a rock star or movie star. And I thought those were way gone.
Right.
But I looked out at these dancers and something in me snapped. It was that first eternal universal snap. It was that first snap where I looked and I was looking at them, at these traditional dancers, and there was young ones and elderly ones, and I was like, wow, now for at the time it was from an ego place. It was from a place of ego. It wasn't really this beautiful thing. It was kind of like, wow, these dudes are like the rock stars of the native world. Everybody wants to take their pictures with them. They're out there. They look cool. They're honored. They're respected. Like these guys are great.
Yeah.
And something in me snapped, and I was like, that's something I could still do with my life. Like I could still do that. Like that's not out of the realm of possibilities. But the alcoholism was in the way. So I went out there and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go sit in this circle. I need some help. And so I sat out there and and it was a real heavy experience. I had my eyes closed and they were dancing around. Now they're not supposed to touch you with their eagle feathers
Hmm.
unless you specifically ask them to or something like that. You're not supposed to be rubbing it on them or touching with your feathers, stuff like that. But I felt one. I felt one touch me on top of my head. I felt it. I felt it raining when it wasn't raining. I opened my eyes and there was dragonflies everywhere, and nobody else saw all the dragonflies, and it was just this really heavy experience, man. And it kind of changed me. I left that powwow and I was like, wow, that was really intense. Like there's really something going on. There's really something to this. Okay, so about 3 days later, this dude shows up at the park. I'm at the park drinking my 40, and this dude shows up there and he's looking for somebody else. I recognized him. He was at the
Hmm.
powwow. He was one of the traditional dancers. I say,
Oh
hey, man.
wow.
Yeah, I say, hey, man, you were at that powwow the other day, right? And he goes, yeah. He goes, Spirit told me that you needed to be touched with my eagle feather. I'm the one that touched you with the eagle feather. And I was like, oh my God, like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, do you know of anything going on now? Is there any kind of ceremony or anything going on? I go, there's a Grandma Aggie. Grandma Aggie Pilgrim is one of the 13 indigenous grandmothers that traveled the world praying for water with the Dalai Lama, all kinds of things.
Oh wow.
She's from my area, Grandma Agnes Pilgrim, and she was the last full-blooded remaining Degelma Indian. I live in the town of Degelma. They
Okay.
pronounce it Tequilma now, but it's actually where the Degelma tribe used to be. So she was having a salmon ceremony. Now, for those of you that don't know, in salmon ceremony, you have a salmon feast, and then the children, ages from maybe 10 to 16, 17, they take the bones from the salmon feast, they dive into the Rogue River, and they place the bones under the rocks at the bottom of the river. And when they come up and come out, it's kind of like a coming of age thing. You're now a man, you're now a woman. Um, and it also is to ensure the return of the salmon for the next year. Okay, so they're doing this ceremony now. We drank the whole way up, dude. We drank the whole way up. Got drunk. I was such an idiot. We slept out on the ground before the next morning when the ceremony started. I show up to ceremony just hungover, dude. Just hungover, feeling terrible. I get there. It is the most beautiful thing I ever see. Everybody is decked out in their regalia to the nines. All the women are in this beautiful white, pure buckskin. It's just this most amazing thing. And there I am, just looking disheveled and terrible and looking rough. And I look over at the gentleman I was with, and his name was Pinecone. And I say,
Oh
"Hey,
wow.
man, you got any kind of any kind of something I could put on so I could fit in a little bit better around here with my people, and
Yeah.
and he's like, here you go. He hands me a breastplate made of all 30-30 gun shells. Okay, so I'm wearing a breastplate of 30-30 gun shells, and then he hands me a chunk of leather, which I basically just tucked into the front of my shorts, and and it just kind of hung down there. So I basically look kind of like a poor man's native Tarzan. And so I'm going around there thinking I'm cool, with my people. Now we stand in the row, and the people kind of form a hallway where it's all the warriors on each side, and then at the end of the line was all the women with drums singing these honor songs. So when the children would come out of the water, we'd be there to welcome them on each side, and we'd shake their hand and hug them and say, "Welcome to manhood, young man. Welcome to manhood. Welcome to manhood." Now about this was that second eternal universal snap that went on inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
By the third, fourth dude, 14-year-old boy that came out of the water, and I shook his hand and said, "Welcome to manhood," this something snapped inside my head, and it just said, "Who in the hell are you to be welcoming these boys to manhood? These boys right now are more of a man right now than you have ever been your entire life. Look at them. They honor their people. They honor their Mother Earth. Look at these women singing these beautiful honor songs for them. They're more of a man than you could ever be. Who are you to welcome these boys to manhood?" And
Wow.
that was that second snap. So from that day on, I had asked Pinecone if he would. I told him I want to be a traditional dancer. I want to learn the ways of the Red Road and of the powwow and of the dances and of these things. And you know, because I had always just been the drunk guy in the parking lot at the powwow. Never really distinguished between what all the dances meant or the ceremony behind them or the medicine behind them. You know, and
Right.
so I really wanted to learn this. So for a year straight. And I know we're running out of time. Sorry, but this is a big one. And so for a year straight, I kind of went through this, you know, what you call like an apprenticeship. I was kind of like a Padawan. You know what I mean? I was in Jedi apprenticeship. I was learning the ways and learning, you know, and I was making my own regalia, and I was learning how to make my own regalia, and I was learning language, and I was learning, and everything always circled back around to the creator. Now, at this time, I didn't have such a great belief in a creator. I had a lot of trauma in my life, things like that. So I had a lot of anger and hatred and blame against the world and against anything that I felt was a you know, quote unquote God or anything like that. I had a lot of resentment towards because of the way my life was. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of always, you know, the earth is my mother, the sky is my father type guy, and it never really went beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're learning this red road, everything circles back to one thing, and that's the higher power, the great spirit, you know. And so we were manifesting this over a year, just everything, just manifesting, making our regalia. Okay, so now the year's up. Regalia is made. We're both there. We got our full regalia. We're sitting in the living room. We're like, all right, we're ready to go out on the powwow trail. This is going to be awesome. We're looking at the calendar, and then I'm like, okay, we're going to hit Denver powwow here. And I'm like, all right, well, Denver, now that's where I'm from. I'm like, you know, when we get there, I got a lot of old friends. I think I'm going to have to drink, and I'm going to have to party, and I'm going to drink that time. And I remember him looking at me with the most disappointed, sad look on his face, like so disappointed and so just so hurt by me still wanting to drink. And I remember him looking at me and saying, "Justin, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this with you if you're going to still be drinking."
Yeah.
And he walked out the door. Now I come to find out later, he walked out to pray for me. But I thought he was walking out, you know. And I remember I was standing there and I had an eagle feather in my right hand and an owl feather in my left hand. And everybody that's out there knows about owl feather and you know the medicine that it carries. It's not necessarily a man's medicine in our tradition, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily something that's used lightly. You know, it's an omen in a lot of ways, if you will. And so I'm holding on to these feathers, and I remember and I walked over to my regalia box, and I was standing over the top of it, and I was holding on to these two feathers, and I remember really praying for maybe the first time in my life, and saying, "Creator, this is all I have. Please don't let him leave. Please don't let this be the end. Please don't let this." You know, this is all I have left. I'm going to die a drunk without this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was sitting there and I was praying. And right then, dude, it was just like whoosh. It hit me, dude, and I was completely taken to a different world. Not hadn't drank a drop of booze that day. My beer was still sitting over on the table. Hadn't touched any kind of man-made drugs, anything. And it was literally I was taken away to another place, and I was shown a lot of things, man. I'm not really going to get into the personal parts of it, but I was shown things in a way that I would understand it,
Right.
and I was spoken to by Creator, and Creator had told me, "I love you. I've always been here for you. We're here. It's okay. Everything's all right." You know, and I was shown a lot of things that I needed to change in order to be the man that I needed to be to walk this red road. And it was a long list of things. And I came out of this vision, bro, with the biggest ego in the world. I came out of this, I raised my hands to the sky, and I said, I just talked to God, and I can do anything I want. God loves me. God loves me, and I can do anything. It's okay. And I went over there, and I picked up my beer, and I started walking up my stairs. And this spirit materialized in front of me, whoosh, just as clear a day as your hand in front of your face, bro, appeared in front of me, tells me my name is blah blah blah, this long ancient name that I can't remember, but he goes, but you can call me Michael. And he goes, and yes, your creator loves you, but you turned your back on creator. And he goes, and this is the fourth time I've been down here for you. Said these words to me. I don't know why creator has such a hard on for you, but this is the fourth time I've been back for you. And I'm not coming back again. And you're going to get this time. Okay. This is where the most scared I've ever been in my life comes in, because I am literally thinking I'm losing my mind. Like, because I'm completely sober and spirits are talking to me, dude. I'm
Right.
literally freaking out. Like I can't speak. I'm just like, oh my God. And he goes, now you're going to come downstairs. And he goes, I'm your brother. And he goes, we fought battles together. And he goes, don't you know that there's battles going on between the light and the dark? And he goes, if you don't want to do the work here, we'll take you right now and you could do the work on the other side. He goes, you know, there's work to be done and we can't be messing around with you being a drunk doofus all the time and blah, blah, blah. And it was just kind of like this big, powerful big brother that had just come, that you loved. There was more love there than anything. I felt it, but just chastising you, just giving you the business, bro. Just, you little mother, you better get your shit together. We're sick of your crap on the other side. And he's really going off on me and tells me to sit down. And he goes, you know, and this went on, dude, you know, I'm going to make a real short version of this, but this went on for a full 24 hours of him sitting there, giving me lessons, talking to me, teaching me how circles work, things like this. But some of the key things he told me is, you know, why have you never called out to us? Why did you never call out to us in your times of need? Why did you never, you know, in all your times of pain and struggling and suffering, you never called out to your ancestors. You never called out to your spirit helpers. Why? We're here. That's what we're here for. We're listening. We're here to help you. And he goes, you know what though, Justin? He goes, that time you were in that terrible accident, he goes, we came anyway. He goes, me and Creator came to visit you. And you know, when we came to see you, when we came to visit you, he goes, you had your demon with you and we couldn't approach you. And right then, this flash of this terrible demon, not anything you see in any Hollywood movie, just something dark from your heart. And it appeared in my mind. And I went, ah. And I looked over and he goes, yeah, that's right. You got a demon with you. And I said, oh man, I don't want this demon with me. And then this whole time I'm literally freaking out because he's doing things like stopping in the middle of sentences and listening to the sky and then going, all right, I don't know if we could do this. You're not listening. You're not paying attention. We might just have to take you right now. And then he'd stop and he'd go, all right, okay. And then he'd go, all right, Justin, you need to really listen. You need to pay attention. So I'm like, just deathly freaking out. Never been more afraid, but feeling safe at the same time. Like it was kind of one of those things. Like I've just now found the Great Spirit. Like I'm not afraid of anything. You ready to take me to the other side? Cool, I'll go fight a battle on the other side. Creator loves me, you know. But it was also one of these things where I'm literally thinking I've lost my mind, you know. And
Right. It's you're you know, like you said, you're not drinking anymore. So I mean, I would see how that's really spooky to
yeah,
somebody
it
that's
was
never been there.
intense,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah, it was intense. It was intense. And he said, you know, he goes, yeah, there's a demon with you all the time. He goes, everybody sees it but you. Why don't you see your demon? I said, I don't know. I go, I don't want that demon around me. Get it away. Get that demon away. And he goes, well, you got to recognize that demon first. I said, well, where is it? I'll get rid of it right now. And right then, bro, this giant hand came out of the corner of the ceiling of my living room, came down in front of my face and pointed right past me. I looked over to my left and it was pointing at my beer can. And I looked at my beer, dude, and it turned into that demon. I jumped out of my chair and went, ah. And he goes, and I looked back at him and he looked at me with this shitting grin on his face, dude, like, yep, that's exactly right. That's your demon. And he goes, now you're going to put that demon on the floor and you're going to kick it out of your life forever, man. And I set it on the floor and I did my beer on the floor, full thing. I didn't even take a drink. And my back door went whoosh, and just flew open, bro. And I booted that can out the door, man. And then I sat down, and then he just kind of started giving me a lot of lessons and teaching me about a lot of things and a lot of private things, as I said, that, I really won't talk about. And, but this is one of those things that I want to share with the people, because I want the people to know that in your times of need and in your times of pain, your ancestors are there. They're listening. Your spirit helpers are there. Your totems are there. They're there. They're there to help you. They're there to listen. And I did, and I accepted it, and it came into my heart, dude. I was told that I turned my back on Creator, and that I threw away my faith, and that I better go pray for my faith and better hope that it's given back to me. That's what I did. I went up. I was so freaked out. I was told that to keep a journal and to make a gift for the Creator. I was barely able to tie 2 feathers together, bro. I was shaking so hard. I was so freaked out. I tied 2 feathers together. I set them on my windowsill with a couple buds. You know what I mean? Some herbal medicine. I put that up there because I didn't know what to do. And I said, "Here's your gifts." And I was told to lay down and pray for my faith back. I woke up that next morning, first night of my life. I never dreamt. I've always dreamt. Even in my most blackout drunks, I remember dreaming. This night, though, no dreams. And I believe that was because there couldn't be any mistake of what really happened. There couldn't be any mistake. There couldn't be any in between, some kind of weird dreamland, to where if I woke up, I would think, oh, maybe that was part of the dream or something. No, there was no dreams. They went straight from me going to bed to straight waking up. I woke up that next morning, bro, November 8, 2006. Never touched alcohol again. I never felt the need for it. Now, I've been shot, stabbed, jailed, lost family members, you name it, to alcohol. Nothing was going to stop me from drinking. It was taken from me. When I was praying for my faith back, I felt that giant hand that just come down, and that big giant hole in my heart that I'd been filling with drugs and alcohol and anger and pain and hate and jealousy and sadness for all those years. That giant hand just came down, dude, and just filled it with faith and love and honor, and just shut in my heart, dude, and just basically cured me up, man. And and that night I was told, hey, you're going to make your own regalia. You're going to do this yourself. You're going to go out. You're going to dance for the Creator. Your life is now for the people. You've lived your selfish life long enough. And I woke up that next morning, bro, and it was like I never drank a day in my life. I had no urge for it. I had no need for it. I was done. It wasn't a one day at a time type thing. Just get me through this day, please. It was, I am done forever. I've never touched it again. And I've been on the red road ever since. 15 years, haven't touched a drop of alcohol. I do my ceremony every day, give my thanks, and praise the Creator for giving me this new life and putting me on this path, bro. And so I was scared straight. And that's the way I'll always put it. A lot of people will say Creator don't make deals and stuff like that. But for me, they said, Justin, you walk this walk for us. You do this for us. You go out and honor the people, and you spread this message. We're going to take that alcoholism from you. We're going to take it from you. We're going to fill your heart with love. We're going to give you powers like you never thought you had. No more depression. No more of this for you. We're going to take that from you. But you're going to walk this walk for us, and you're going to do it in a good way. And a good way is, and anybody out there of our people that are listening, you know exactly what I'm saying. You're going to live your life in a good way. And that's what I started doing, bro. And here I am 15 years later, man, still walking that path, still spreading that message. And it's still as fresh in my mind, and still is. Because believe me, he told me straight up, I will be back. You touch that alcohol, I see you look at that alcohol. Don't make me come back here, dude. Like, he was like, it won't be as nice next time. Don't make me come back here. Because if we have to come back here for you, it's not going to be good for you, Justin. And so, and then, of course, obviously, this went over 24 hours. So there's a lot to this story, but that's the quick version that I could possibly give to just let people know, man, that there is better. It's never too late. I was 35 years old. I thought my life was over. I am now a 51-year-old rapper working on his 4th album, shooting reality series, rocking crowds, spreading a good message. And this all comes from spirit, bro. This all comes from those ghosts and spirits that we speak of. And I owe it all to that. And that was the time, brother, that I was the most scared in my life, felt the most love in my life, and it changed my life forever. And it's what brings me here talking with you right now today, Jordan.
Awesome. And I'm really proud of you. And for all my listeners, I want to say thank you for taking time. I know, especially we talked about, this is your decompression state, but I do appreciate you coming in and telling that story and sharing it. Like, we talk a lot about, the scary story aspect, but this is also paranormal as well as trying to, you know, raise awareness and give you that platform as well. And I want to say thank you on behalf of my listeners, man. But I think
You're so
that's,
welcome, brother. You're
yeah.
so welcome, and thank you for giving platforms like this for people like me to put out the message and share things like this, man. Because I know a lot of people are into the scary, crazy aspects of it. A lot of people take it a bit more serious with a little bit more respect, and so I always enjoy the opportunity to kind of share these wonderful things with the people.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I think that's all the time we got, man. We're gonna have to have you back on sometime, especially with all your projects going on. We're gonna have to have you come back in. That way we can kind of promote some of that stuff, and maybe we'll have you back on, and we'll talk about we'll break down some of the local legends that you got going on there as well too. But we'll have
Well, you
to.
got it, man. Yeah, Southern Oregon's full of them.
So we'll leave that cliffhanger for those of you that loved it. So, but I gotta run, and I'm pretty sure you gotta run, man. So, but thank you again, and we'll have to talk next time, man.
You got it, Jordan, man. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you to everybody out there. Yakinawiya, Magwitch. Much love to everybody. Just to say native.
Thanks, man. We'll see you, bud.